Greetings, felted in time and space. It's your host, Mario Shadow, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to some more of the great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We're going to be continuing up where we last left off in the last episode, and this will be a regular recorded video because for some reason YouTube won't let me broadcast anything today, so I will be recording this. So we'll be at this for about an hour until we get to a good stopping point. So I'm going to be frequently checking my timer just to make sure how much time I have left. So, without further ado, let's get started right away with today's adventure and see what's in store for us. Allons-y! Order, please. Let us resume proceedings. Witnesses, you will now retake the stand. I presume you heard the defense counsel summation examination. Oh, yeah, Governor. I did, Gov. I did. I keep on trying to say Mrs. for some reason. Cool, blimey! This is going to be hard work. Earlier in this trial, you gave the following testimony about your actions after you entered Windy Banks. Well, it was bedlam soon as, weren't it? It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me dukes out me Lucy Locket. However, that was a lie. You brothers. Cool, blimey! On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the victim's counter. We never done nothing of the sort. How'd you figure that out? You will now give formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question, and this time, you will tell the truth. Each lie that passes your lips serves to increase the severity of your punishment. Ooh! That, gentlemen, may deal a crushing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. A thought worth pondering, perhaps. Say no more, Gov. We hear you. We'll blab. We'll squeak. We'll peach. Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. It was when we heard the gunshot, see? Made us both jump, and all that stuff went flying. Lummy, it didn't have to give me a fright. We was thinking the shooter'd come out the door and get us next. We stuck everything back where we found it in Scarpert, straight into him in the back. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never even had a chance, did we? Hello. So you admit to the defense's accusation. You did indeed ransack Mr. Windybank's countertop on the night in question. Not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Nash, that's right. It's more like we tidied up, yeah. Sorry. By their own admission, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled on hearing the gunshot, having first made good their messes. The way you say it, we hardly sound like rogues at all. We don't, Nash, we don't. Can't he make us sound a bit more cutthroat? It can't just be coincident that these men showed up at Windybanks that night. There's more to their testimony than meets the eye. I'm sure of it. Alright, let's see here. Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. Let's see what you gotta say. If that's the case, then why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place? Well, you know, we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we? We ain't, Nash, we ain't. If we admitted to something like that, people would think we was up to no good. Well said, Ringo, me old China. we'd only land ourselves in even more trouble. And in fact now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony, that's exactly what you've done, landing yourselves in even more trouble. That's rotten luck, says the rotten apple eater. Witnesses, explain your actions to the court. Why did you ransack the victim's counter? We never ransacked nothing. Right, Nash, right. More like we tidied the place up. Sorry. It was when we heard the gunshot, see? It made us both jump, and all that stuff went flying. Alright. So what you're saying is, the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much, you knocked all those things off the counter? Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah. This bag of nerves needs to learn to keep his shirt on. Look, it was loud, alright? Blimey, me dead granny would have woken up at that bang. Big bruv here screamed like a bloomin' baby and fell over on the counter. He knocked over a load of brooks, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. I got tangled in some marionette. What knocked over a picture frame? What knocked them scales on the floor? You really mastered working quietly then. What a racket. McGranny would have been scared back into her grave at a clatter like that. So in short, the gunshot took you by surprise. And then some. I mean, it was quiet as a mouse. And then all of a sudden, bam. Hello. Gregson, what do you have to say? Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add? Like I keep saying, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels. No, something to add about their testimony. You seemed to react just now at what Mr. Skulkin said. Did it make you think of something? It's probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't even bother to mention it, only... Well, the fact is, cases don't get solved if you ignore the little details. How don't you just tell us what's on your mind? As you know, we brought these fellows into the yard for questioning last night. And the statement they gave then told a slightly different story to what they're saying now. Did it? You claimed you heard the victim shout something out before the gunshot. Might have, Gov, might have. Does ring a bell now you mention it. Granted, it's only a minor detail, but still. I can't help feeling like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony here, eh, fellas? If I discover the witness's testimony has been any more sloppy than it has hitherto proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishment to bear against them. Easy, easy! We'll get it right this time! That's it, yep, it's all coming back to me now. Oh, Van Zeeks is not impressed. Then speak! Supplement your testimony with whatever details have miraculously returned to your questionable minds, sirs. Right you are, Gov. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun!" Hang on a minute.
Objection!
Oh no! That reveals a damning inconsistency, that last statement. Damning, you say? As I look at you, counsel, I see your trembling hand, your pallid expression, and your perspiring brow. Huh? It seems to me that is the damning inconsistency here, with the misplaced confidence of your assertion. Oh God, I got roasted. You have a damning tongue. Okay, let me press on that, because I know that has to be the actual thing that got that right, because Windy Bank died immediately. If they're going to say that it was Windy Bank's voice that they heard, how is that possible if he died instantaneously? You invited, sir.
Hold it!
So in fact, you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously. We did, Gov, we did. Although, I suppose if you're being honest, we heard a kind of wavering voice before the yell and all. If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun. Bam! Kind of thing. Her career in acting tragically missed. And where were the voices coming from? Could you tell? Of course we could. From the other side of that door behind the counter it was. From the storeroom, where the victim was found dead. And the voice you heard, it was that of the victim, Mr. Windybank. On me granny's life, of course it was. On his granny's life, of course it was. So, that would mean that you both knew Mr. Windybank at the sound of his voice? Eh? So that would mean what? What, Nash, what? Any ideas? Yes, Counsel. Indeed it would. Nah. We didn't know the geezer. How am I supposed to deny it when that bloke in all the fancy club was giving us the evil eye? If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true. On me granny's life it is. On his granny's life it must be. It's a good job his granny's dead. Oh no! To summarize then, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you then hear the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, scattering them over the shop floor. You make it sound like we're clumsy. Don't forget, we tidied up after like good little boys. Anyway, the way I see it, the bloke what owned the place was holding guns, so he should have just fired instead of yelling at the girl. Wait.
Objection!
That one is the one that's off. So you're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windybank, was wielding a gun, is that correct? That's it, Gov. You've got the picture. He has, Nash, he has, no question. And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windybank was not holding a firearm of any description. Eh, you what? Gordon Bennett, that ain't right. There could be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I will remind the court that Mr. Windybank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as the murder weapon, but it was found in the accused's hand. Yeah, that mold tool used the victim's own gun to finish him off. Give me that gun. Bam. Kind of thing. Stay exactly where you are, right there. Eh? If the crime had taken place as you've so colorfully described in your testimony, it will give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you just acted out. Goodness, are you sure, Counsel? You're intriguing me, my learned friend. Let's see some evidence to support your claim. Where's the proof that demonstrates this inconsistency in the witness's portrayal of the victim's final moments? That would be the autopsy report, and if I'm correct. Where is it, though? Autopsy report. Yeah, he got shot in the back. He didn't get shot from the front. If he got shot from the front, the bullet wound wouldn't match.
Take that!
According to their testimony, the witnesses claim to have heard a shout of, "Give me that gun," followed by the gunshot. Indeed, with the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we've been led to believe. Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states that the victim died instantly after being shot from behind. Ah. So, as I stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. But it's the God's honest truth! And it's Nash it is, when he was shot that night. The shopkeeper had a gun in his hand. We saw it with our own bleeding eyes. Did I hear you right just now? You actually saw Mr. Windybank holding a gun? Something like that might have slipped out. Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard the admission by these two witnesses that on the night in question, they actually saw with their own eyes the victim wielding a gun, which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person. Ash, Order! Witnesses, explain yourselves at once. Well, the thing is, it weren't supposed to, It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you. Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies? Ever so sorry, Governor. Truth is, see, cut it out, Nash, cut it out! If we blab now, you know what he'll do to us. He? Who are they talking about? Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you. Bruv, come on, the game's up! But you'll have our guts regardless! In case it hasn't quite sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out. On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand that you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place. Well, do we have to? On pain of death. I suggest you make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth. Encounter with the victim. Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the geezer showed his mug. Give me that gun, he bellowed, and then he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we'd had it. For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter. I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear. So you're now telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop? Well, yeah. Sorry. Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably. But honest, Governor, this time, Nash, we ain't got nothing more to hide. Do you now? Very well. Counsel for the defense, you may proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. Okay, now, what stood out to this? If I'm correct, the one statement that stood out to me when I was reading that was statement number 5. Let me see what... let's press statement number 5 first. Really? Is that all that happened? You say you had nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. Nothing, Gov. Nothing. The old geezer went and shut himself in the back room, didn't he? Locked it was from the inside. We know it was, because we tried to open it. But it's a decent door, that one. Good and strong. Wouldn't budge an inch. So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could possibly have shot the victim. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade. Ah! It would indeed appear so. What say you to that, counsel? I don't know. Was there anyone else apart from Gina who could possibly have shot Mr. Windybank? There could have been. Easily. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Eh? What? What's that look for? From the moment you admitted that you'd encountered the victim face-to-face that night, the course of this trial changed completely. It did? What is your point, my learned friend? The question we must answer is who could have shot Mr. Windybank, and it is the belief of the defense that the defendant is not the only possible answer at all. You have my attention. In that case, let us return to this plan of the premises. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are the facts. So pray, what other possible answer to the question of who shot the man could there be? Counsel, you must now provide answers to the court in respect of 2 conundrums. 2, my lord? Twice as many chances to be right, maybe. Indeed. Namely, From what location did the culprit shoot the victim? And furthermore, where was the victim at the time? Understood, my lord. Are you alright, Bruno? I'm not entirely sure, but there's one thing I am sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative to what happened, my uncle must be home because those dogs are making a fuss, which is very odd because it would be... Yep, he's home. It would change Gina's prospects hugely. So now, time for some clarity. Show the court on this plan the answers to the questions posed by his lordship. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person could have fired the gun. Well, obviously, it had to be outside the door. Couldn't have been someone inside. The defense believes that the culprit could have shot the victim from this location here. And in answer to the second question, assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim at the time? Inside. Culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom. Continue. Mr. Windybank died instantly from a bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood on the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear that the body was moved at the death, which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is, where was the shooter when the fatal bullet was fired? So you are adamant that the shot was fired from outside the storeroom. Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony, I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room. If Mr. Windybank ran away through the door, we have to assume that the door was open at the time. Ah! It was at precisely that moment when the victim was fleeing for his life that these brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside the storeroom. Come to think of it, do you remember what the prosecutor said at the start of the trial? Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner. His report states that the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself. Poor man, shot while he was running as fast as he could to safety. Ah, of course! He would have been leaning forward as he was running away. So even if the bullet was fired horizontally, it would still have entered his body on an upward trajectory. So the culprit isn't necessarily someone shorter than Mr. Windybank. I'm sure my learned friend can't have forgotten that the storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claim the victim was shot as he fled into the room. Do you also claim his corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock? Ah, but, what if someone else locked the door? Yes, there is someone else who could have locked the storeroom door. Is that so? Very well then, counsel. Present your hypothesis to the court. In the scenario just described, the defense's assertion is that the victim was shot from outside the storeroom. In which case, who shut and locked the storeroom door from the inside? The only person it could have been, Gina. Obviously, the person who locked the door was the only other person inside the storeroom at the time, the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. That's absurd! You suggested that the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room. For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around her neck. I am inclined to agree, I must say. Well, counsel? Ah, yes, that's a tricky one, that, isn't it? Half-baked notions have no place in my courtroom, counsel. Remember that, please. But of course Ginny would have locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it? It does? Well, if I was Ginny in that situation, I know I would have locked the door as quickly as I could. I mean, those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they? Oh yes, obviously. Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Mr. Windybank were in the storeroom together. Now, I don't know what went on between them at that time, but at some point, Mr. Windybank must have heard the intruders breaking into his shop and left the storeroom. Intruders, eh? That's us, bruv. If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom. Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back through the storeroom door, hoping to escape danger. Hit in the back by the bullet, Mr. Windybank fell to the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to ask ourselves now is, what would the defendant have done at that moment? Ah, I see where you're going with this! Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer who had just murdered Mr. Windybank. As soon as that thought struck Miss Lestrade, she slammed the door shut and locked it, in order to save her own life.
Hold it!
But I ain't. I mean, we ain't the ones who done it. We ain't, Gov. We ain't. You've got to believe us. I mean, come on. We never shoot no one. That's blatantly untrue. I know for a fact that you would, because before my own eyes, you shot Mr. Sholmes. There's only one logical conclusion here. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, your brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Windybank's murder. That was amazing, Bruno. All the members of the jury seem to be firmly on your side now. I know, first time ever, and probably the last. Well, I think you've done it. Surely they'll have to give a victory and verdict of not... Oh boy. He's laughing. An admirable effort, my learned friend. What's this now? He's laughing? You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Zieks. I myself find the defense's argument most persuasive. I dare say, such chicanery is the bread and butter of the street performers in your provincial Eastern Notion, but such blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pettifoggery here. What? The hypothesis you put forward so ostensibly, credibly, cannot and will not stand. Because, you see, it contains a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw? Do you mean to tell me that you're unaware of your logic's failing? I say, Lord Van Zieks, might be an idea to explain this bally conjuring trick or whatever it is to the troops on the ground, The fatal flaw in my learned friend's argument is really very simple to understand. Assuming you're not too dim-witted to count bullets. By George! Count bullets? Oh dear. He noticed then. Huh? What's everyone talking about? Counsel. Yes, sir? Tell the court how many bullets were found at the scene of the crime. Two. 2 bullets. Correct. The first, that which hit the victim in the back, ending his life. And the second, that which struck the detective, Mr. Sholmes, on his arrival at the scene. Indeed. The defense presented a picture showing the damage caused by the second bullet earlier in the proceedings. The bullet which injured Mr. Sholmes appears to have passed through his body to strike the calendar. If that's the one that shot him. Your lordship's understanding is correct. Furthermore, you know there are 2 firearms involved in the incident. The revolver belonged to the victim, Mr. Windybank, and the Skulkin brothers' revolver. The evidence shows that a single bullet was fired from each gun. Yes, indeed it does. A single bullet from each. Now then, my learned friend. You yourself told the court only moments ago that these 2 brothers shot Mr. Sholmes right before your eyes. Yes, I did. Oh my goodness, I think you'll find that if the single bullet that was fired from the brother's gun hit Mr. Sholmes, it means... Windybank not shot by same gun. Stop. Only 1 bullet. Stop. Exactly. Yes, this Lebanese street performer presented an ostensibly credible argument. However, it was never anything more than a diversionary trick with no hope of standing up to scrutiny. Ugh. Order! Order! Oh God, he threw the bottle into the crowd again. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging the dregs of this hallowed nectar into the public gallery. Lord Van Zeeks! But this court needs to open its eyes. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade, is no ordinary little girl. Despite her young years, she can, regrettably, no longer be described as a juvenile. No, the person in the dock is far from a law-abiding citizen. She has a past riddled with criminal conduct. The truth is, the accused broke into the pawnbroker on the night in question with loathsome intent. As we can see beyond doubt in this print, which depicts her threatening the victim with the murder weapon. And I have here in my possession one more piece of evidence the prosecution wishes to present. That disc! I'll be taking that whatever it is of McGill that's down to the yard, thank you very much. No, don't! Don't give it to him! It's mine, that is! Mine! I'm sorry, miss, but anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now. Yes, that music box disc. McGilded's music box disc. The very day before the hateful murder of Mr. Windybank, the accused attempted to make off with this article, which clearly doesn't belong to her, and with none of the subtlety of a pickpocket, I might add, but by brute force and brazen impudence. Good gracious! Make no mistake, any sympathy for the accused on account of her years is misguided and dangerous. There are no deaths to which this girl would not stoop if pushed, no crime she would not commit. The court forgets that fact at its peril. I see. I think it would be prudent to take this music box disc into evidence, counsel, as a grim testament to the defendant's character. Lord Van Zeeks, Inspector Gregson? What? Yes, Inspector. We had a meeting yesterday at the yard with the prosecution service, and, I think it was agreed that that disc wouldn't be used as evidence. What's this all about? Why is the inspector acting strangely? That's the first time he said anything to Van Zeeks at all. I am unaware of any such meeting. But those were the instructions, right from the top. The government bigwigs were insistent. Inspector, I am the prosecutor, and I alone determine how to present my case. Your warning is noted. Thank you. The prosecution wishes to proceed with submitting this disc as evidence, my lord. Indeed. Bailiff! The prosecution has established the accused's motive, opportunity, and baseness of character. There is nothing more to add. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I await your informed decisions and rest my case. I don't believe it! I had the jury on my side for once, for all of 5 minutes. Oh dear, it wasn't even for 5 minutes, Bruno. My lord? Wonder if I might say something at this point. Proceed, Mr. Foreman. Been stumbling about in a bit of a fog up to now, if truth be told, but all of a sudden, the answer's bloody obvious to me and my men. There's only one thing for it. Oh no. Very well, the court will hear from the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you will present your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty.
Again!
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
God, these people don't like me. We have a consensus among the jury, it seems. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. That's my line. I wrote that for Hurley. Ah, how dare he use it against us? Don't worry, Iris. I don't think we're finished yet. There's still more to this case than we realize. There must be, because there's one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. Gina didn't shoot Mr. Windybank. That's behind any doubt. Very well. We will proceed with the second summation examination of the day. Mr. Foreman, are you and the other jurors ready? Garradeb Squadron is primed and ready for action, sir. Very good. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have now determined to defend it to be guilty. The jurors' contentions. Once a rogue, always a rogue, I say, Different breed to us law-abiding citizens. As only 2 bullets were found at the scene, I would say the whole case is done and dusted. You don't need a stereoscope to see the truth here. Every which way you look at it, it was that pickpocket. I never imagined that simple operation would cause me such grief. The accused attempted a theft on the previous day. I can see I'm in for a busy day indeed. I am ballistics expert. I have seen many shootings. There's nothing I do not know about guns. An operation, huh? I wonder. It would seem there is little remaining room for doubt. I have to admit, I was rather bowled over by the argument put forward by the chap in black. But when that fell apart like a house of cards, I saw that I'd jolly well been hoodwinked. Well, no more! The whole courtroom is turning against me. It's not fair. Iris, the prosecutor's being mean. Just because Jenny's done some things she shouldn't have done in the past. That doesn't make her a murderer. Allow me to savor this fruity vintage while I savor the spectacle of your fruitless debate on the matter. Here's to the truth coming out, eventually. That's enough preamble. Counsel, proceed with the summation examination. Yes! Slap them cheeks! Yes, my lord. Now, I'm going to step away for a split second. I need to get some ice because my drink has gotten hot already. There we go. Nice cold drink. Once a rogue, always a rogue, I say. Different breed to us law-abiding citizens. Now, already, I think I need to actually pit number 4 and number 6 together because this guy, this old guy, keeps talking about an operation. I'm curious what kind of operation he has done. Let me see. What kind of operation have you done, sir? Would you please stop muttering about things that have nothing to do with this trial, sir? The defendant's life is on the line here. Well, the thing is, I couldn't really say that it has nothing to do with this trial, to be honest. Huh? I mean, there's still question that the man was shot, but the bullet had simply vanished from his stomach. It's quite inexplicable, don't you think? I almost don't want to ask, but this surgery you've been muttering about all this time, you were operating on... What was the fellow's name now? Herlick? No. Hairlock? No. Hairlock? Herlock Sholmes by any chance? Yes, good lord. It was that Hairlock fellow. Ah! The music! You're the surgeon that operated on Mr. Sholmes? That's right, using the very latest anesthesia techniques, I might add. It was a fairly major op, I can tell you. This is crazy! Let me see, the fellow was brought in not long after midnight, if I remember correctly. They said he'd been shot by some criminal or other, so I opened him up like a shot. But the funny thing is, I went over his insides with a fine-tooth comb and couldn't find a bullet anywhere. So I'm afraid I had to throw up my hands and just stitch the fellow back up. I hate to state the obvious, but surely that's because the bullet is still at the scene of the shooting. The counsel for the defense is correct, as is clearly shown in this photographic print. The bullet that the Skulkin brothers fired at Mr. Sholmes hit him in the stomach region, then exited its body and lodged through the shop wall where the calendar was hanging by the door. I think you'll find it's really quite simple if you just consider the problem three-dimensionally. Ha! Who do you think I am, son? Well, juror number 4 is about the best I could do. As soon as I saw the wounds in the man's stomach, I flipped him over. Like a pancake? Are you saying that you checked his back? Of course I did. Yet there wasn't a trace of injury. No sign that the bullet had left the body at all. What? That's the point. The only logical conclusion was that the bullet was still somewhere in the man's innards. Which is exactly why I said about slicing him up. I'm still none the wiser, even now. How many times do I have to say it? Can someone please explain how it happened? Can somebody please solve the mystery? It's almost as much of a mystery as how this jury was put together. The mystery of where that bullet ended up is infuriating. Where's an expert when you need one? Pitch you with you, because you said you're a ballistic expert. Those two statements clearly contradict the idea that all I do is pit jurors against each other. Ooh, a ballistics expert! Pitting, P-I-T-T. On the night in question, Mr. Sholmes was shot by one of the Skulkin brothers, but since there was no sign of an exit wound on his back, we must assume the bullet didn't pass through him. However, no bullet was found lodged in Mr. Sholmes' body either. Furthermore, a bullet was found lodged in the wall of the shop where Mr. Sholmes was shot. Juror number 6. Hello, my name is Violet. Pleased to meet you. This apparent contradiction in the facts that is so clearly troubling juror number 4. Are you able to explain the mystery? I have seen a very similar situation in Motherland. It was night. There was blizzard. I was running away along mountain road at freezing cold. Golly! The snow was piling high on both sides of the road. My pursuers had hunting rifles as they were on dog sleds. Mental note, don't ask too many questions. I was shot from behind, and I fell down in snow. And this situation was very similar to what I hear today from doctor. They could not find bullet in my body, and no sign of, how do you say, exit wound. Then where did the bullet go? Bullet never hits me. Well, if it never hit you, why did you fall down? Bullet hit frozen wall of ice very close to my side. What? One small piece, really sharp, broke away from lump of ice and pierced my body. It made deep wound that looks just like bullet wound. Good gracious! Of course, a piece of ice quickly melted inside me, and that is solution to the mystery of disappearing bullet. But that doesn't answer the question at all! The shooting happened in a pawnbroker's shop, not some snowy mountain road in another country. Just an idea, but we might not be looking at exactly the same scenario here. Runo, where exactly was Hurley shot again? Well, according to the report, in his stomach, sort of around this area, I think. Well, that's precisely where he always wears a little pouch on his belt. A pouch? Actually, I might have noticed something like that. Yes, a pouch. It's where he keeps 3 glass vials of very dangerous chemicals that he uses in his investigations. What? Really? Doctor, where's the pouch Mr. Sholmes was wearing? Well, the fellow had nothing like that on his person when he arrived at the hospital as far as I remember. If I may. Lord Van Zeeks? While I realize it is forbidden for the prosecution to interject during summation examination, I should inform the defense that I have the pouch in question in the antechamber outside the courtroom. Sorry? As I understand it, when the police arrived on the scene and found Mr. Sholmes injured, they removed the pouch in order to assess the wound. Ah, thank goodness! I thought I was getting forgetful for a moment. Since then, it has been in my safekeeping along with all other evidence related to the case. I can personally vouch for the fact that it has not been touched since the incident occurred. Very well. While extremely unconventional during a summation examination, I must demand the prosecution presents the item in question with all speed. Bring forth Mr. Sherlock Sholmes' pouch. I see. So this is the pouch worn by Mr. Sholmes on the night in question, is it? Look at that! One of the files is broken and the leather around it is scorched black. It's almost as if the file exploded. Exploded? So, that night, the bullet from the Skulkin brothers' gun struck Mr. Sholmes' pouch, and it was the glass file exploding that caused the fellow's injury. This bullet did not penetrate the rectum, but was deflected into wall of shop. A delightfully complex aroma. Well, it would appear one mystery has been solved at least. Though it has no bearing on the truth of this case. The bungling and burgling brothers shot the detective, and the accused shot the pawnbroker. The pertinent facts of the case remain unaltered. But at least the mystery is solved. I can sleep easy tonight. Thank you, young man. Ah, thank you very much. Glad I could help. Due to its bearing on the conundrum just solved, the court will sequester this scruffy pouch as evidence. Hurley's pouch isn't scruffy! Now, the summation examination. It would appear the defense is somewhat struggling to alter opinion, Please, my lord, a little more time. After all, that's a new piece of evidence. It could be a valuable clue, and you can't afford to overlook anything here, Ryunosuke. Let me see here. Oh, hello! What is that? Is a bullet! It's really scorched badly just here. Oh, the strap is broken, look! This must be where the bullet hit then. Let me see. Yep, that's a bullet. What the? Iris, look! Behind where the broken file was. Do you see it? Oh, that's the Skulkin brothers' bullet. What a stroke of luck that it hit his pouch. This is an amazing discovery. What this means is, there were 3 bullets fired at Windybanks that night. We found exactly what that juror was talking about. The 3rd bullet. It's time to press that juror again, I think. The 3rd bullet has been entered into the court record. There's still a way to turn this around. Somehow. I'm sure of it. As only 2 bullets were found at the scene, I would say the whole case is done and dusted. 3 bullets! It's the number of bullets that has you convinced. Only 2 bullets were fired, and the 2 guns that fired them have been examined by the police. When the parlor maid asks me how many are invited for dinner, I always tell her to count the table settings. Well, that's logical, I suppose. Although, yes, sometimes after dining, crockery does go missing. 1 or 2 guests rather like the fine china. Does your employer dine with thieves? So I suppose. If there was another bullet somewhere of which we were unaware, I'd have to reconsider my position. A 3rd bullet somewhere on the scene. Could that be possible? I can prove it. Allow me to show you then. The 3rd bullet.
Take that!
Here it is. We discovered it just now. Yes, on the night in question in Windybank's pawnbrokery, another bullet was fired. What is this new trickery, you Nipponese conjurer? Where did you find that bullet? It was lodged in Mr. Sholmes' pouch. What? This pouch was removed from around Mr. Sholmes' waist before he was taken to the hospital. And since then, it has been touched by no one. Do you mean to say the shot fired by the Skulkin brothers that night? Yes, as your lordship has surmised. It hit this pouch. But that makes no sense whatsoever. We already know the whereabouts of the bullet fired at Mr. Sholmes. It's clearly visible in this photographic print. Ah! 2 guns from the scene had already been submitted into the court record as evidence. Yes, that of Mr. Windybank and that belonging to the Skulkin brothers. An examination of both guns revealed that only a single bullet had been fired from each. Ah! But that must mean... That's right. We now know that on the night in question, 3 bullets were fired. However, only 2 bullets were fired from the guns recovered from the crime scene, And until that incontrovertible inconsistency is somehow explained, we cannot and must not pass judgment. Ah. Ah, my heart. Order! While this submission examination remains incomplete, the court has been presented with new facts. Facts that would appear to shake the very foundations upon which the case against the defendant has been built. As is my prerogative in this situation, I hereby temporarily suspend the summation examination. By Jupiter! What? Bailiff, bring the witnesses back to the stand at once. Witnesses. Governor! Were you listening to proceedings while the defense carried out the summation examination? We was, Governor, we was. Perhaps we could dispense with the tedious preamble. Simply answer this one question. A third bullet has been identified at the scene of the crime. What do you make of that? Make of it, Gov? I don't make nothing of nothing if I can't help it. Is it one of yours? Go blimey, Gov, go blimey, not a chance! In that case, did you have an accomplice? What? What? Never! The Skulking Brothers work alone! It's just the two of us. That's our trademark. How soon will we forget poor Sulky? Only 2 of the bullets at the crime scene originated from the firearms we have in evidence. The third bullet was fired from another gun. Where is it? Lummy. That's Ned Scratcher. Counsel for the defense. Yes? I should like to hear your thoughts regarding these new developments. The third bullet, and the mysterious missing firearm from whence it came. Thinking back over all the testimony we've heard and all the evidence we've seen, I think I'm starting to form a picture of what really happened that night. My lord, I think it's clear what this third bullet tells us about the Skulkin brothers. They had a secret accomplice. Easy. On that night at Windybank's pawnbrokery, the brothers must have been working with a third man. The witnesses are clearly doing their best to cover up the existence of this accomplice. But the evidence all points to the fact that there was someone else present, someone carrying a gun.
Objection!
An accomplice, you say? Pig's will. These protracted proceedings have already forced us to endure 2 summation examinations. Yet in all that time, there has been not a murmur of a third man, that this apparently wraith-like being exists. The court must be shown hard evidence. Without it, this fantasy will be crushed. Oh yeah, there is one thing I want to check right fast. I never did test the blood on this. Oh, Bruno, look! This is blood! Yes, you're right. Just a small smear, but definitely blood. Actually, I feel as though I might have noticed that before. Ha! Then it's my time to shine again! I thought I'd be waiting forever! Alright, hold still with that disc, Bruno. Let me get this done quickly, Iris. In a flash! And it's... green! And we know whose blood this is, because this blood was only put there recently. Ooh, a lovely bright shade again. Wait, that color. What is it? It's just that green. It's not the first time we've seen that color, is it? The prosecution demands answers on 2 counts. Firstly, proof, evidence that this accomplice was ever at the scene of the crime. And secondly, the identity of this spurious character. The Skulkins are lying, I know that. But, how can I ascertain the identity of the person they're hiding? Well, counsel? I'm supposed to prove the existence of this accomplice, and reveal the person's identity even. In response to the prosecution's demands, my lord, the defense is ready to present answers. The defense is ready. I believe I can provide all the answers the prosecution demands. So, my Nepalese friend, despite the swimming eyes, you seem to think you have something to say. This promises to be interesting. Ooh! Slap them cheeks. I have to push forward now. There's no other option. I need to use every single piece of evidence available to me if it will make a difference. In that case, counsel, I would ask you to present the evidence without delay. On the night in question, in the moments leading up to the death of the victim, what proof have you that there was a third intruder present at the scene?
Take that!
We present the portfolio. The evidence is right here, in this portfolio. By Jove, that portfolio again, is it? Do you expect the court to rifle through your papers itself? Be more specific. You claim one of those blood samples proves the presence of this third intruder. Well, which one is it? This one. What am I looking at here? There appears to be some green paint or such like around the bullet hole in the middle of the calendar. That's a bloodstain, my lord. A bloodstain. Green blood. Curious, even for you. Is the court to understand that the intruder was some unhuman creature? It's something developed by Mr. Harlock Sholmes. By the great detective! New invention! Stop! Not yet appeared in stories! Stop! It's this, you see. It doesn't have a name yet, though. This fogger sprays a chemical that reacts with the different elements in people's blood to change its color. Different elements of people's blood? Yes, everyone's blood is slightly different, you see, because it's made up of different elements. So by seeing what color it changes to, you can tell in a flash whose blood it is. Ooh, that brings a whole extra dimension to looking at blood. Talk of blood and coloring. Stop. Very exciting. Stop. As an example, this one shows the blood of the victim, Mr. Windybank. Ah, a striking blue. Yes, so you see, the green color of this bloodstain on the calendar shows that somebody else was shot in the main part of the shop. Now hold fire there, young man. Could be from some unrelated incident, couldn't it? No, it's not unrelated. The date showing on the calendar is the date on which Mr. Windybank was killed. By golly! Therefore, we could assume that whoever was shot on the same day. And whose blood is it? Well, the Skulking brothers in the stand don't appear to be suffering from any gunshot injuries. Which means it must be the blood of somebody else. The third intruder, in fact. Whose identity the court is still waiting to hear. You can't delay this any longer, my learned friend. Whose is this alleged third murderer? Third intruder?
Take that!
Eggert Benedict. The man's name is Eggert Benedict. Eggert Benedict? Who on earth are you talking about, counsel? He paid a visit to Windybank's pawnbroker on the afternoon before the incident took place, when the accused attempted to deceive the pawnbroker into releasing this article into her possession. That's right. The man identified by the defense, Mr. Eggert Benedict, then attempted to take the article from the defendant by force. Broker? Yes, sir. I believe this filthy pocket thief has just redeemed an article from you, no? Yes, the article in question belongs to me. I demand for it to be returned at once. Now that's a lie. What are you trying to pull? Give me back my overcoat, you wastrel, and needless to say, any music box discs, too. Inspector Gregson was there at the time and can attest to what happened. In the end, it was the inspector himself who took the disc. Can you corroborate this account, Inspector? Yes, my lord. That's more or less what happened. And in the interest of being thorough, I asked Windybank for a print showing the fellow. Take it from one of his red-handed recorder gubbinesses. Yes, that's him talking to Mr. Windybank this morning. And you claim this man is the brother's accomplice. Well, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin? Never seen the geezer before in me life. On me life, Gov, on me life. Never seen him. Well, somewhat unsurprisingly, it appears our witnesses disagree with the assertion. I'm actually going to stop here because I am very close to my time being up. I have been keeping an eye on that. So I'm going to stop here. We're going to continue with this tomorrow. Hopefully the YouTube app will